It's May 1996, and the Monaco Grand Prix is about to become Formula One's wildest race. Heavy rain floods the streets, and suddenly Michael Schumacher crashes out. This was a big disaster, because in the end, only 3 cars make it to the finish. Out of nowhere, Olivier Panis becomes the hero. Stick around because this is the story of a race that changed F1 history. On May 19, 1996, the Monaco Grand Prix was the 6th race of the Formula One season, and it took place at the famous Circuit de Monaco. The circuit runs through the streets of Monte Carlo, and it is the hardest race of the year. The track is very narrow, and the corners are tight, and there are no big runoff areas. If a driver makes even a small mistake, they will crash into the wall and their race will be over. In dry conditions, Monaco is already the toughest race on the calendar. On this day, the weather made it even worse because heavy rain fell in the morning and left the track slippery and dangerous. The race that followed turned into one of the most shocking and chaotic events in Formula One history. Out of 21 cars that started the race, only 3 made it to the finish line.
Exits the Rascasse to win the 1996 Monaco Grand Prix, an incredible result.
That was a record then, and it still has not been broken. The 1996 season before Monaco was all about Damon Hill. He drove for Williams, a team with a very fast car. Damon won 4 of the first 5 races, so everyone thought he was the best.
Damon Hill exits the chicane and wins the Japanese Grand Prix.
His teammate Jacques Villeneuve was new to Formula One, but already super good. He won a race in Germany and showed he could drive fast. Michael Schumacher, a big star who won 2 world championships with Benetton, recently moved to Ferrari. His Ferrari wasn't as fast as the Williams, but he was master in the rain. Jean Alesi and Gerhard Berger drove for Benetton, but their car wasn't as strong this year. Other teams tried to keep up, but they weren't as good. McLaren had David Coulthard and Mika Häkkinen, but their car was only okay. Ligier Honda, the team of Olivier Panis, was way back and not expected to win. Nobody thought a small team like Ligier could get first place. The Jordan team had Rubens Barrichello and Martin Brundle, but their car wasn't fast enough. Smaller teams like Tyrrell, Footwork, and Minardi just wanted to finish races. The season had big stars, but Monaco's rain was going to mix things up. Fans were excited to see what would happen. The Circuit de Monaco is famous because it's so tough. It's only 3.3 kilometers long, but it has hard turns like Saint-Devote and Lowe's Hairpin. The streets are bumpy, and walls are like right next to the track. Drivers have to be perfect for 78 laps, which is a long time. Passing is super hard because the track is so narrow. The rain that morning made it even scarier. The wet track was like ice, and drivers had to be very careful. Monaco's danger and beauty made it the perfect spot for a wild race. On Saturday, the qualifying session was dry, and it showed who was fastest. Michael Schumacher proved he was awesome on street tracks. He drove his Ferrari to first place, called pole position, with a time of 1 minute and 20.356 seconds. Nobody could beat him, not even Damon Hill, who got second for Williams. Jean Alesi took third for Benetton, and Gerhard Berger was 4th. Mika Häkkinen got 5th for McLaren, and David Coulthard was 6th. Jacques Villeneuve had a bad day and started in 10th. Olivier Panis was way back in 14th for Ligier Honda, and nobody thought he could do much. And of course, starting up front in Monaco is a big deal because, as you know, the track is so tight that passing is almost impossible. Schumacher's pole showed Ferrari was getting better, even if their car wasn't the fastest. Hill wanted to win Monaco so badly and was close in second.
Damon walks away. Oh, look, you can see the anguish.
Alesi and Berger showed Benetton had some speed, but they weren't as strong as Williams. Häkkinen and Coulthard hoped to score points for McLaren. Panis needed a lot of luck to even get close to the top. The stage was set for a crazy race day. On race morning, the weather got really bad. Big rain fell on Monte Carlo and made the track super wet. The race bosses let drivers do a short practice to test the wet track. Mika Häkkinen slid off at a turn and crashed his McLaren. He had to use a backup car to race. Another driver, Andrea Montermini, smashed his 40 car and couldn't start. Most drivers picked wet tires because regular tires wouldn't stick to the slippery track. But Jos Verstappen, his mindset was different. He tried regular tires in his footwork car, hoping the track would dry fast. The wet track changed everything. Wet tires have grooves to push water away, but they're slower when the track dries. Verstappen's choice was risky and could go wrong if the rain stayed. Other drivers knew they had to drive carefully to avoid crashing. Monaco's tight turns like Lowe's hairpin were even harder in the wet. Fans in the stands and on boats in the harbor were nervous. They could feel how dangerous this race would be. The cars lined up and everyone held their breath. When the race started, it was total chaos. Damon Hill got a great start and passed Schumacher at the first turn. Unexpectedly, trouble came fast. At a turn called Lower Mirabeau, Michael Schumacher slid on the wet track and crashed his Ferrari. He was out before finishing one lap.
Michael Schumacher is out of the Monaco Grand Prix before the first lap has even been completed.
Jos Verstappen's regular tires didn't work, and he crashed too. Two Minardi cars, driven by Giancarlo Fisichella and Pedro Lamy, hit each other at the first turn and broke. By the end of lap 1, 4 cars were already out, and the race had just begun.
The start was initially clean, but even as Damon Hill, who had qualified his Williams second behind the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher.
Damon Hill led the race with Jean Alesi in second for Benetton. David Coulthard was third for McLaren, and Eddie Irvine was fourth in the other Ferrari. Olivier Panis was further back in his Ligier, but stayed safe. The rain made the track scary, and more cars crashed. Ukio Katayama slid off in his Tyrrell at a turn called Portier. Ricardo Rosset hit a wall in his footwork near the swimming pool section. Pedro Diniz's Ligier stopped because of a gearbox problem. Rubens Barrichello rotated his Jordan at a tight turn, and he was done. The rain kept making things hard. Every turn was a chance to crash, and the walls were so close. Hill drove smoothly and pulled away from Alesi. Coulthard and Irvine stayed close, but they had to be careful. Panis kept his car clean and avoided trouble. Marshals were busy clearing broken cars from the track. Fans were shocked, as big names like Schumacher were already out. The race was turning into a big test of who could keep going. After about 15 laps, the rain slowed and the track started to dry. Damon Hill was far ahead, leading Alesi by more than 10 seconds. Coulthard was still third and Irvine was fourth. Olivier Panis drove smart and stayed out of crashes. On lap 30, Panis made a bold move at Lowe's hairpin, the slowest turn in Formula One. He passed Eddie Irvine's Ferrari by diving inside. Irvine spun out after the bump, and Panis took fourth place. That move showed Panis was ready to fight for a better spot. Panis's pass was a big deal. Lowe's hairpin is so tight that passing there is super rare. Panis saw his chance and went for it, surprising everyone. Irvine was upset but couldn't do anything. Panis's Ligier wasn't a fast car, but he drove it perfectly. Hill, Alesi, and Coulthard were still ahead, but Panis was getting closer. The race was still wild with cars sliding all over. Fans cheered as they saw Panis climb up the order. As the track dried, drivers switched to regular tires called slicks. Damon Hill pitted on lap 31 to change tires and kept his lead. Jean Alesi waited a few laps before switching. Panis timed his pit stop just right and passed some cars. The track was still a bit wet, so slicks were tricky to use. Drivers had to be careful not to slide off. Panis's team made smart choices and he kept moving up. Strategy was a huge part of the race now. Pit stops changed the race a lot. Teams had to pick the right time to switch tires. Hill's team got it right and he stayed way ahead. Alesi's team waited too long and lost time. Panis's pit stop was perfect and he gained places. Other drivers like Häkkinen struggled with their tire choices. The track was drying, but some turns were still slippery. The race was about who could make the best moves. Then came a huge shock. On lap 40, Damon Hill was leading by 30 seconds. Suddenly his car started smoking and flames came out the back. An engine problem stopped his car and he had to pull over. Hill was sad because he really wanted to win Monaco. Jean Alesi took the lead with David Coulthard in second. Olivier Panis was now third in his Ligier. Nobody thought a small team like Ligier could be so close to winning. Hill's breakdown was a big surprise. He was so far ahead that everyone thought he would win. The Williams car was the fastest that year, so this was a shock. Fans couldn't believe it. Alesi now had a chance to win for Benetton. Coulthard pushed hard in his McLaren, hoping for a big result. Panis was the underdog, but he drove like a star. The race was getting crazier every lap. Jean Alesi tried to stay in front, but his car had trouble. On lap 60, his car's suspension broke and he had to stop. Olivier Panis took the lead in his Ligier. David Coulthard was second, but had a problem seeing because his helmet visor fogged up. He borrowed a red helmet from Schumacher, which confused fans. Coulthard kept trying but couldn't catch Panis. Johnny Herbert was third in his Sauber, driving carefully. The track was still tricky and anything could happen. Alesi's breakdown was another big moment. Benetton was a good team, but their car wasn't strong that day. Panis's lead was a shock because Ligier was a small team. Coulthard's helmet problem was strange, but he kept going. Herbert's Sauber wasn't fast, but he stayed out of trouble. Other drivers weren't so lucky. The race was about who could keep their car on the track. Fans were amazed at how things kept changing. More drivers kept crashing or stopping. Eddie Irvine crashed again and blocked the track. He held up Mika Häkkinen and Mika Salo until marshals cleared it. Jacques Villeneuve made mistakes and crashed his Williams. Car after car broke or slid off. The race hit its 2-hour time limit and the checkered flag waved. Only 3 cars finished. Olivier Panis in first for Ligier, David Coulthard in second for McLaren, and Johnny Herbert in third for Sauber. It was one of the wildest finishes ever. Panis's win was a huge deal. It was the only time he ever won in Formula One. Ligier hadn't won since 1981, so this was super special. Panis started in 14th and used skill and luck to win. Coulthard's second place was great for McLaren, a team having a hard year. Johnny Herbert's third was awesome for Sauber, a small team that didn't often get podiums. Unfortunately, big teams like Williams, Ferrari, and Benetton had no cars to finish. Monaco 1996 showed that underdogs can win big. The numbers from that race are crazy. 21 cars started the Monaco Grand Prix. 18 crashed or broke down. Only 3 crossed the finish line. That's a record that still stands in Formula One. The wet track and tight turns made it super tough. Even the best drivers like Schumacher and Hill couldn't finish. It showed that speed isn't everything in Formula One. Monaco 1996 is remembered for a lot of reasons. It's the day Olivier Panis became a hero with his one win. Big stars like Schumacher, Hill, and Alesi all had bad days. A driver from a slow team took first place instead. It's the race with the fewest finishers ever. Most of all, it shows how Formula One can be full of surprises. Rain, crashes, and luck can change everything. Monaco 1996 proved that anything can happen in this sport. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. And I'll see you in the next one.